Hey, this is Max at 343 Labs. We're a music production school based in New York City, Berlin, and online. And today I'd like to show you a clip by one of our instructors, John Selway, which is taken from 343 TV, which airs right here on our channel several days per week. Now, if you want to watch the full stream, head over to studio.343labs.com, link in the description, which is our new producer hub where you can meet other producers, get free content, collaborate, and get feedback on your music. Enjoy the clip.
This is what Microtonic looks like. Let's go over to the main view here so we can see a little bit more. Normally Microtonic is sort of silver. They've got there's some skins you can load up to create different looks, and let's check out how this sounds. And like, Microtonic has always been a really good synth for making electro. I think some of you probably have it already, or already using it, or you know about it. And, you know, I did not program this beat. This beat was, I discovered this beat. So it's kind of an interesting thing. Like, it's not randomly generating patterns. It's creating, you know, this beat space script is creating permutations and combinations of existing rhythms. It's a neural network that was trained on patterns generated from that patternarium that I just showed you. And that thing's cool on its own, right? But anyway, and so the neural network has generated these patterns based on what it was trained on by the patternarium. And then there's an interface, all right? Let's go over here to the scripts folder. This isn't included with Microtonic. You got to get Microtonic, install it, and then they have an installer for the scripts that are available. And that will show up in this little puzzle box icon here in the upper right. If we load up BeatSpace, now we have this window of, you know, it's like a galaxy, or a nebula, I mean, more like a nebula, right? It doesn't have a spiral. And you can think of all of those different points. They're like individual stars in a nebula or something. And each one of these circles is a different sound and pattern. All right, so now right away it replaced the preset that I had earlier that I generated. So it's completely different now. And I don't know, let's try moving around some of these dots and hear what happens. All right, so it's not making electro right now. It's giving me a steady kick drum. All right, let's get away from that kick drum. There we go. Syncopation. We need syncopation to make an electro beat. Pretty fast, right? Like right away, I kind of slid into this interesting, more electro syncopated groove. All right, so that's just moving things around. You can kind of see how the individual elements sort of relate to each other. And depending on where you move them around in these sort of clouds of different colors, you'll get different results. You can also randomize, and this is actually, I find randomizing consistently sort of comes up with more diverse results more quickly. Like sometimes it'll come out sounding perfect or interesting right away. Other times it'll just be kind of whatever. And then, you know, since you don't have a total perfect control over the rhythm, right? Let's pause that for a second. You don't have to use all the drums at once. We can mute or solo individual elements. You can see here on the bottom it says Alt is solo. I mean, that's the Windows key, right? Is that going to be? Yeah, that's going to be Option on a Mac. And then Command will mute. And that's just temporary. Right? So it only solos when you click on it. And then when you let go, Let's do the opposite. Let's mute. All right, the mute holds on. The solo doesn't hold on. The mute actually latches. All right. Of course, you can also go out of the beat space and mute it. Manually up here on the upper right, you've got mute buttons for each channel. And it kind of tends to move between like quarter note, like kick drums with variation, to more electro-like broken beat kind of stuff. And you can kind of smoothly move between them. So the way I've been thinking about using this is to just generate not just full loops like this, full drum grooves, but individual instruments that I can use separately, right? So I might come up with a pattern in beat space that I like, that has elements that I like, but maybe like the kick drum isn't great. So what I'm going to do here is, and what I already have set up is Microtonic has a multi version. There's a version that has just everything through stereo out. And then this is a version that has every drum sound on a separate channel. So I've gone here. You know what? Let's go back. I want to load up the preset from earlier. Right, because I like this one. All right, and I've got, here's Microtonic on a MIDI track, and that's whatever that quiet drum is. That's what's on channel 1, and then I've got a few more. I've got another audio channel for each other output of the rest of the 7, and then I have the audio routed from Microtonic multi. And then each one, I have each track set for each output. So this one's track 2, this one's track 3, and so on. And so that way I can record each drum separately and then use them separately and reconstruct and arrange them or combine them in different ways, right? So I'm kind of looking at this as a really fast way to generate lots of content that I can make tracks out of. And on top of that, another thing that I was playing around with is this is separate from beat space. Microtonic has this sound morph slider, and what happens is if you load up different sounds or modify sounds depending on where this is, like let's say if I move the morph position all the way to the left and then I go in and tweak some settings, or I load up a different set of drums entirely, and then I move it to the right, and then I have a different set there, then I can interpolate between them and morph between them. So, and actually what I did was I had the sound morph set over on one side. I generated the pattern with beat space. Then I moved it over and generated another pattern. And then you can go back and forth between those. Or if you don't want to mess the pattern up, you can go down here and open a new drum patch. So that's going to keep the pattern but change the sounds. And that's another thing I always liked about Microtonic is you can save a preset that combines the sound set, what the synths are doing, right? And the patterns in the sequencer below, or you can save them separately. And that's great because like you can make a beat and then hear how your beat sounds with a bunch of different other drum sounds really easily. All right, but let's hear what it sounds like when I morph this. Right, so it's like, as if you had macros, you had a macro controlling all the parameters of every synth at once. And, how it sounds, that's going to do, you're hearing the pitch changing, you're hearing it sounds a little bit more exaggerated. You could do this in a more subtle way, or you could have only, if you do it one at a time, each drum one at a time, you could have only some drums morphing and others not. But I just thought it was fun to just play around and randomize some things and see how it goes.
I hope you enjoyed that. Again, if you want to watch the full stream, head over to studio.343labs.com, link in the description below. And that is our new producer hub where you can find free content, collaborate with other musicians, get feedback on your music, and just meet a community of like-minded artists and producers. See you next time.